and here as a representative from the UK. So let me start. I know I'm the last one for today, so I hope you're all here. So my experience as a brain education leader in UK and my vision, that's what I'll be sharing with you today. So how did it all begin? So I'm a physiotherapist. I currently work in the UK, and I work with children at the minute. And I see children who are having complex and chronic conditions. So from various different parts of their body, whether it's the lungs, the brain, every single part. And usually I see them where every single person has seen them, and we're in a specialist clinic where it's the psychiatrist, doctor, and everyone. And it's quite difficult by the time they come to me. They're like, you're another person who's going to do something onto me. Don't touch me. Don't come near me. So it's very difficult, but we work through with them. And in a health professional model, we do interventions. And I don't work myself. I work with doctors, occupational therapists, nurses, social workers. So if you think, it's quite a big team. And we do these interventions and we get them better. However, what happens is that they don't get fully integrated back into their lives. So for instance, if it's a young adult up to the age of 24, they might feel better and they'll have good outcomes. They might feel emotionally a bit better, but not when I'm in work. Or they might, if they were having pain in their arms or in their back, they'll be like, the pain is much better, but I don't want to go and do my hobby, or I'm not feeling really well, please don't tell my mom, please don't tell my dad. And it made me realize there is something in there that is missing. And I realized as a physiotherapist who did the psychological aspect of learning and bringing together the physical and mental, there was something that was missing. And that's when, I guess, an opportunity came up for me to do the brain education leadership. And of course, I was an attending participant at Body and Brain Centre in the southwest London at Putney Centre. So I knew that how I did the practice, how it brought me focus, calm, through brainwave vibrations, it helped me, create more clarity, or doing certain exercises encouraged me to be at peace with myself. So I thought, okay, if I can do to myself and how I feel in such a stressful situation like London, working, living, how would it be to do this for the children? Of the brain education leadership, I'd like to share with you. This is a program which Dave Beale spoke about just now. It's amazing, and I feel so lucky to have done it. I wish I actually had it as a child. And then these are some of the programs, the exercises that I run. And one of the things that touched me very much in the brain education leadership was when we are given the opportunity to speak to our organs, speaking to our hearts, speaking to our stomach. And it was quite profound, and that was where I just thought, wow, I really, really want to actually try this out with my own patients. Not in a classroom situation, but in my clinic. So I will share that with you in a sec. But what I have here is we have a video of some of the...
I teach power brain education to children in schools, and I do also have a class at my Epsom Centre in the local centre. It's been an ongoing class for the last few years. I've been teaching children there from a range from 4 to 12 years old. And I had a class in the past. I've got a new class now. I had a class in the past where I was teaching for a year, and I saw a real benefit. That they really liked coming back. They really enjoyed coming to the classes, and they really seemed to get a lot out of the classes. They wrote some really, really powerful words for me when I asked them for their feedback, how much they've changed, how much their body has changed, how much their personality has changed, how much they want and aspire to things more now than when they first joined to the class. So it was really promising to see, and that was really touching to see from the children. I've just started a class in a primary school, teaching years 2 and 3, in local Putney Centre, near local Putney Centre, which is really promising. The children love it. I'm teaching 10 children there, and as it's a brand new class, it's one of many after-school clubs here in Putney that we hope to build on for the future. So we're really getting a lot of inspiration out of this brand new club. So I'm lots of hope for that. Also, I teach my children at home. I've got 2 children. One of them is a lot more susceptible to it than the other. And she has really changed since I've been introducing the exercises to her at home. I did self-declaration yesterday with her, and it was really, really powerful. I've done loads of brain education exercises with her, and self-declaration was very, very powerful. She cried quite a lot, and she's going to take quite a lot of it on to use in schools that will help her with her self-esteem and her confidence. So, yes, thank you.
So my name's Claire, and I have been part of brain education here in the UK for about 3 years. Before that, I was teaching kids class in the Hammersmith Centre, which was an amazing experience. I saw how children really, really change with this practice and connect to themselves and can deal with their emotions, and also can connect to themselves physically. And my own children were part of it, and I saw their growth as well. So brain education in schools here, I can really see huge hope for the program, making change in the school system here, which is quite a high-pressured environment with lots of testing, and I know a lot of children really struggle. So helping them connect with who they are and what they want, which brain education is really great for, is what we're really aiming for, bringing it into the schools here. So that's our hope for the UK.
So that was Samantha and Claire, and they're very, very important part of our brain education team in the UK. It's relatively young. We actually had a pilot study done by a colleague of ours, and this was in Brighton. It was done 3 times a week for 45 minutes, and it was for the 7-year-old children and 10-year-old children. And this is some of the pictures of the activity that was carried out with our trainer right down there. As there was expressed or explained a few times before, going through Jigum, energy, ball, they found that they really was touched by it, and it's not something that you do regularly in school, so it was a new thing. And some of the study and graphs were taken, and as you can see, the blue is where it's before and the green is after, and there's a positive trend throughout where the variables of the social aspect and the emotional aspect, they were affected in a positive way. So that's positive and helpful and encouraging for us. So I'd like to share a little bit more about when I was speaking just now. So I've touched on school and what the experiences are, but I'd like to touch on my personal experience because I haven't had the opportunity of creating that group yet, but I just thought it would be important to do this. So there's these 3 children I've met, and the first one is a 15-year-old boy with behavioral problems. So this boy comes from a family where he observed domestic violence being done to his mother, and what happened was that he had gone through the system and he had so much pain, and unfortunately this was making him hit out at people, and he came to me because of an ankle problem. So having gone through the system, he wasn't going to engage at me, and I just thought, okay, you know what, I cannot touch him yet, let's do something. And we began by self-tapping. So I tapped and I said, you can do it with me. And he was like, huh, you crazy? And I was like, no, just try it. And we just did a few times, and we went through, and then after that we did the bullfrog, which is the push and pull, your intestinal exercises. And slowly, as we were just chatting and doing this, he slowly began to engage. And this was over 1 or 2 sessions. And I remember thinking, this is a space for him. He's never had this opportunity to just share because he's been with the police or with the social welfare. and he's not allowed to go to school to meet his friends. So it was a place where he was able to trust and open, and we got so much out of it that I remember thinking, gosh, I need to share this with someone in work. And I actually spoke to his consultant, who said, we're actually diagnosing him to see whether he's on a spectrum of some sort. And I thought, oh, okay. And she said, what's happening with him? And I said, actually, he's really responding. And she said, oh, share with me. And I said, well, we're doing these exercises with him. He's doing really well, but I'm not able to share that within a group with him yet because we're on a one-to-one basis. And we actually, then she said, well, what do you think about when he gets a little bit better to try him without medication, but still continue with this brain education exercise? I thought, yeah, why not? So there was that hope there. And I thought, oh my God, that's one patient that I sort of tried it on. And of course, this is anecdotal and it's not a research yet, but it was a start and gave me hope. And then the second patient is a girl. She was waiting to sit for her international baccalaureate. And so a girl who was such a high achiever, everything has to be good. She was the head girl in her school. A asterisk was what she had to do. But what she had was complex regional pain syndrome. And just to make that simple, it's basically when the brain, so they had a CT scan, MRI scan, her brain is working fine, but her ankle wasn't working fine, and it will just swell up, her nails will drop off, it will have hairy patches on it, and that is basically, if I was to explain, is like when the computer program has a virus in it, and you need to scan disk it or clear out the virus. In a way, it's about just setting her right. So, belly button healing would have been amazing for her, but of course, she wouldn't do that onto herself because it's too much. So instead, what we were doing were more gentle things. And that was, again, the breathing. We did some jigam, and this was in conjunction with the physiotherapy stretches and relaxation. And I saw her over a course of 6 sessions, and she too, where she was coming to me limping and not able to touch or even look at her ankle, she was able to look at it, have compassion and kindness for her ankle again, and feel through that experience of coming to see and then practicing at home that she was able to do this for herself. So there was a lot of self-empowerment within that, and then explaining, what did you do with me? I'm like, oh, this is what we call brain education, and you're working with your brain. And so she was really interested. The outcome of that girl is that she went to her exam. She did sit for her international baccalaureate, and she's actually in university right now, but she uses her crutches still. So it's an ongoing thing. It's not something that was overnight. Then the third patient is a young child on the slide. It was an 8-year-old boy, and he came to me because, again, he had actually went to punch someone, unfortunately, because he was aggravated in school. That's because they found out later on he might have some learning difficulties. When he came to see to me, when we were doing arms and wrist exercises, I began talking to him about intestinal exercise, calling it the bullfrog, and he was like, oh, what's that? And because he had so much energy, we did exercises too, like press-ups, jumping jacks, and then calling out what we call the 360. So I got involved, his mom and his brother, and we would do a circle, and every time you have 3, 6, or 0, you jump. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. I had 4 people around. They would be counting, and whenever it came to 3 or 6, they would jump, and he just loved that. He's like, oh, I'm teaching my friends in school, and I'm like, oh, amazing. And he's like, oh, I want to come to this physio, and I'm like, good, but we need to teach your friends too. So it just made me go, wow, okay, he's engaging, because usually they said, this is going to be a difficult child, he's not going to listen to you, just give him the exercises and go. I'm like, oh, you know what, he's taken so long to come, let's try this. So thankfully he engaged, his wrist got better, but there was a sense of compassion and kindness that he learned. And when we had the opportunity to listen, it's about finding a little bit of yourself. And although we didn't have that classroom project yet where he was able to sit in, he's found that little bit of, oh, you can listen to me, you have respect for me, and therefore he had more respect for himself. So it was just wonderful seeing through what a little bit of those exercises can do. And I just dream of how much we can do more of when we set up more of these in the schools. I mean, just now when we were listening to Dave Bill and he was giving the statistic that they want to double in New York, we're like, woo, inspired to have this in UK, hopefully. So there's this loud realization that I am part of a health profession within where there is diagnosing, and it brings people into a very narrow pathway and is diagnosing the children and adolescent adults. But unfortunately, this is going to impact them for the rest of life. And I feel very conflicting of being part of that. And so there's that part of me that goes, I really want to actually instead build hope into the children, and there's that ability for the brain to heal ourselves and enable that. And I know when I talk to my other health professions and the multiple disciplinary health professional team, whether it's a doctor, psychiatrist, there are people who believe in this, and I guess the more we talk about it, the more we do it, it will happen. So that's me from regards to what's happening in my brain education world in UK at the minute. I also would like to share my vision. So that's a map. Do you know where that is? Southeast Asia. I'm actually from Malaysia. I've been living in London for some time, and having done a lot of the leadership programs that Body and Brain has taught, I feel very passionate about actually sharing this with my own country. And so what I'd like to do is actually help and find partners within my own country of helping me help children, teenagers and young adults help themselves through brain education, and therefore that will by default affect their parents and the society around them. And hopefully this will spread the Hongate spirit that Body and Brain does a lot of, and this will actually then have a domino effect throughout. I thank you, and I hope that we can share again, and I hope I'll bring positive news in the future. Thank you very much.